two major categories of expense that every childcare business needs to think about are fixed costs and variable costs. When we're talking about fixed costs, we're referring to costs that remain constant regardless of how many students you have enrolled. These include such things as rent, insurance, utilities, and software subscriptions. Variable costs, on the other hand, are costs that increase or decrease in relation to the number of students you have enrolled. These include things like teacher salaries, groceries and food, arts and craft supplies, and classroom materials. As a centre owner, one of the best ways to increase revenue is to accept new children into your childcare programme. But every time you take in a new child, your costs will increase. So you'll need to work out the true cost that comes with each new child. Your best bet to keep your overall costs as low as possible is to focus on reducing your variable costs rather than your fixed costs. In general, it's tougher but not impossible to lower fixed costs like rent, insurance and utilities. You need to be willing to find a location where it's less expensive to rent or shop around for cheaper insurance or utility providers. If you have several software subscriptions, you could look for a product that offers multiple administrative services for a single subscription. Instead of trying to lower your fixed costs, it's much easier to lower your variable costs per child to boost your profitability. Variable costs directly impact your profits. They increase when you bring on more children, unlike fixed costs, which won't change no matter how many children you enroll. If you have high variable costs, you'll find it hard to be profitable, as the increase in revenue from enrolling new students will always be eaten away by variable costs that come with each new student. This is why it's so important to understand the costs that come along with each additional student enrolled. Calculate your variable costs per child and work to keep these costs as low as possible. What are the specific variable costs associated with each new child at your facility? Some of these expenses could include groceries, if you provide breakfast, lunch or snacks during the day, arts and craft supplies, classroom materials like an extra chair or cushion for each child, and payroll to account for the salaries of new hires who may be necessary to maintain your adult to child ratio. Payroll is considered a variable cost here, as it's going to increase as enrolment goes up. In contrast, the owner's salary is a fixed cost because it's not going to be affected by how many students are enrolled. Let's take a look at how to calculate the variable costs per child. First, break down the expenses associated with one child who attends your daycare program for a full day. Here is an example. Breakfast, $2.50. Snack, 75 cents. Lunch, $3.50. Payroll, $19.75. Arts and crafts, $1.25. This gives total variable costs per child per day of $27.75. Next, multiply the total variable cost per child per day by the number of full weekdays the child attends daycare to get your total variable costs per week for a full-time child. In this case, it's $27.75 multiplied by 5 days for a full-time child, and this equals $138.75. When you do this, you can see the direct relationship between increasing the number of children enrolled in your daycare program and the increased variable costs you can expect to pay. Now, suppose you charge $300 per week per child. Then, after paying your variable expenses of $138.75, you're earning $161.25 per child per week. This is $8,385 per child per year and will contribute to covering fixed costs such as rent and owner's salary, as well as boosting your profits. Keeping your variable expenses low means you'll have enough revenue to pay your fixed expenses and still make a nice profit. Here are some ways you can think about decreasing your variable costs per child. Seek out donations of toys and classroom supplies from local businesses, community organisations and churches. Shop sales and buy in bulk to lower the cost of your arts and craft supplies. Stock your daycare kitchen pantry with food items from wholesale retailers to rein in your grocery expenses. You will find that even though your variable costs will inevitably increase as you add more children to your program, you will have a reasonable amount of control over these extra costs.